Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalati wassalam ashrafil mursaleen. Anbiya mursaleen. Sayyid al-awwalin wa akhirin. Shafil mutnibin. Rahmatil alameen. Muhammad. Wal tayyibin at-tahirin al-masumin. Qala Allahu ta'ala fima. لا إله إلا الله جليل الجبار لا إله إلا الله عزيز الغفار لا إله إلا الله وحيد القهار لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إلها واحدا نحن له مسلمون لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إلها واحدا نحن له مخلصون لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له إلها واحدا نحن له عابدون قال الله تعالى في محكم كتاب عزيز بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Salawat please. Please, can I have a loud salawat, please? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As human beings, we go through different types of emotions. Some of these emotions affect us different ways. Example of some emotions that affect us in different ways is, let's say, for instance, we said love and hate. Everyone has been in love or are in love at this moment. And there's times in which people might have hated something at times or another. But somewhere down the line, we had both of these emotions, whether it's one after another or maybe at the same time. But this is not the emotion in which I want to talk about, love or hate. There is another emotion in which we have that almost feels the same way as love and hate. This is an emotion that we find ourselves always feeling. This is an emotion in which we always look towards. This is the emotion that helps man able to cope with daily life. This emotion makes sure that you go and achieve things. This emotion in which I'm talking about is called hope. It's called hope. Hope is something in which is in our heart. We try to get to something in which we love. When we say we hope for something, this is something in which we love. We put towards the effort to get this and we hope that we receive this. Hope is something that if we did not have it, no one would want to live. Hope. But then we have the opposite. Fear. Fear is another emotion in which man has inside of himself. Fear is something in which we fear. We fear the emotion of fear. But sometimes we see that people, they have either one or the other. They have hope or they have fear. But in actuality, we should not, not have both of them at the same time. They said that if you was to open up the chest of a believer, he or she will have hope and fear in their chest. And if you was to take this hope and fear out of their chest, it will weigh the same. Because we hope for the best and fear for the worst. These are on equal grounds. But let me talk first about hope. Because I know people like the times, they want their dessert first, right? I'll give you the dessert first. Hope. We have to understand what is hope. For instance, say we are farmers. And we see a piece of land in which we're going to farm on. So we do everything in which it takes to make sure this is able to be planted. We till the soil. We remove the rocks. We plant the seed. We water the seed. And then we hope that the stuff in which we have planted will grow. This is hope. On the other hand, this is something else now. We see a land that's not able to grow anything, and we just throw the seeds anywhere and say, oh, it's going to grow. Hope is something in which you have to work for. Just by throwing a seed on any land without preparing the land, it will not grow. This is stupidity. Then we have another one, which is different, and some people get this one mixed up. They think this one is hope, but all actuality is not hope. It is totally different. We see a land. We know this area in which this land is, it does not rain, nor do we have any water. Matter of fact, the land is not even fertile. So what we do, we till the soil, we take the rocks out, we do whatever it takes, we put the seed in, and then what we said, I wish this crop will grow. Big difference. This is the problem with people. They get wish mixed up with hope. I wish it will grow. No. As believers, we hope, but we prepare ourselves for the hope. We do not just sit there and say, I hope it happened. No, you have to work towards hope. SubhanAllah. There was one time, a man, he came to Imam Jafar Sadiq, alayhi salam, and he said it was a group of people or a group of your associates. You know how they always say it's always a group of your associates. He said, this group of your associates, or the people who said they associate with you, Imam, these people are constantly committing sin, constantly doing wrong, but they hoping for Allah's mercy. The Imam said these people are liars. He said, you could only get hope for what you work for. You cannot commit sin and hope for the mercy. No, this is ridiculous. He said you will only get what you achieve or you work for. This is what happens. We, as human beings, we commit all types of lewd acts and we hope for the best. Oh, I hope Allah Jalla, He forgive me. But don't you think you might have to repent? Make tawbah. Things are not going to happen without work or effort. No, not at all. Hope is something in which we have to work for. Hope is something in which we aspire for. If we did not have hope or aspirations in our life, we would not want to live. We would just give up. He said over here, keep hope alive. Right? Keep hope alive. We see this example that one time they said Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he was watching a farmer. And as he was watching this farmer, he was, tilling the soil, this farmer guy. He had his, I think they call it a spade or something, maybe like a shovel to that order. So they said as he was working, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he made dua to Allah. He said, oh Allah, take away from this man his hope and aspirations. They said once he made this dua, this man dropped his shovel and went and sat in the corner. Then he asked, he said, oh Allah, return this man hope and aspirations. And once he said that, the man got up and he began to work again. So Isa alayhi salam, he went towards this man and he asked him, what happened? Why did you drop, your shovel? He said, for a moment, I felt like I'm old. I shouldn't be working anymore. I'm old and I had no aspirations of work anymore. I just wanted to give up basically. He said, but 1 minute All of a sudden, when I picked it back up, because I felt like I need to work. I'm able to make money. I have to make money to support myself and my family. His aspirations return. His hope return. This is what keep us going. We work and hope to get something in return for what we do. Our life is all about work and effort and hoping for a better future. We lay the seeds out and we hope that things will grow healthy and strong. Hope. But if we do not hope, then we will lay down and just do nothing. Hope is what keeps man moving. And we have to have that in our heart. Hope. Right? If you don't have hope, what do you have? You don't have nothing. This is why they said that these are two rays, or one of the two rays that's inside of the heart of the believer. Hope is a ray inside of us. Hope is inside of us. So we have to keep this hope alive. You know, when we think of hope, now how we don't never think about the other one, fear. This is the opposite. We already got our dessert. Now it's time for the main course. Fear. Man fears more than anything. Fear is something that moves us away from things, right? It's supposed to. But when we look at fear, we should know there's different levels of fear. They're not just fear in itself, it's just different levels and stages of fear. When we look at fear, we should look at the first stage. The first stage of fear is that we fear the punishment of the hellfire. We fear the punishment. There's fear in our hearts for punishment. So anything that has to do with punishment or hurt, we fear that. Or loss, we fear that. They said this level is the lowest level. This type of fear. Because we fear. Because of the punishment. We fear because of the punishment. This is the reason why we fear. It's always going to be a punishment. Oh, I fear that. I don't want that. No, we keep that. Fear the punishment. But then we look at the second level. This is also a fear. But this person, he fears or she fears a little different than the first one. He or she, they fear law. But their fear of a law is that they fear that they will not be able to reach closeness to a law. They fear that a law in other words, they will lose their closeness and the preference towards a law. This is what they fear. This fear comes along with those who have seeked out and got knowledge. They learned who Allah was. They love Allah. They want to be close to Allah. They do all the ibadah it takes to be close to Allah. They want to be favored by Allah. All of this is that type of fear. Different type of fear. One fear is the fear that he fears about the punishment. The other one is the fear that he fears that Allah will not be able to reach closeness to Allah. Right? Hope I didn't confuse anybody about the fears. Difference. Majority of us are that first one. We are the one who fears because we fear that punishment. That is us. And we have to work on being that second one. We fear that we're not able to get the closeness of Allah. This is the best of fears. Right? You think so. This is how we must think when it comes down to fear. But we should always keep these inside of our heart. Hope and fear. And let not one of them go away from one another. You know, it was one time the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. that in there sometimes to wake you up, sometimes you're asleep. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He was observing someone one day, and they said this man just took his clothing off and started rubbing himself in the hot sun, first his back, then his stomach, and then his forehead. And the Prophet, he thought this was something that was weird, why this person would put himself in such torment on the hot sun, on the ground. And he never seen anything like this. It would be kind of odd if you see someone out of blue just strip and just throw himself on hot sand and start rolling around. So he asked him, why did he do this after he put his clothing back on? Basically, what he was saying is that he was putting himself through this torment so in which he will not get it in the hereafter, to remind himself about what is to come if he was to do wrong. He was put in the fear of the torment of those who sin in himself while he was still on the earth. We never think about this. We never take time out to think about that. Putting ourselves through the torment here so we won't commit no sins. So we will have no sins at all. So they said after the Prophet asked this guy this, he said this is something in which we all should do as an example. That's basically what he said. And then he asked this guy to pray. Let's pray together. Because he had a method. A method in which we should follow. It is almost like we take in charge of ourselves by taking ourselves in account about what we have done during the day. It was almost like that, what he was doing. This was his checks and balance. Putting himself through this type of thing so he will not commit any sins. This is because the fear in which he had of Allah. Not the fear of the torment, but the fear of not getting closer to Allah. Right? You see the difference now to the people. It's a big difference. This is that fear. We look at these things. Our fears, our hopes. This is what keeps us alive. This is the emotion in which that is so close to love that we don't really realize it. That when we hope for something, it's almost like a love. When we fear for something, it is almost like a hate. It is almost like these two types of feelings are hand in hand with one another when it comes to our emotion. When we fear something, we hate it. When we hope for something, we love it. The emotions in which man have within himself or herself. This what drives us. This what keeps us going. So we have to always hope for the best and think about the worst that may happen. It's like a person, he or she, they sin. They hope for Allah's mercy, but of course they repented. But at the same time, they fear for the sins in which they have committed. This is how it should be. We should know that when you fear something, you run away from it. When you fear something, you run away from it. But only thing in which you fear that you run towards is Allah. That's the big difference. When you fear something like torment, you run away from it. But when you fear something like Allah, you run towards Him. Right? That's how it's supposed to be, of course. This is how it's supposed to be for the human being. These emotions of fear and love, the hope and the hope and the fear It's something in which we should have as a balance within ourselves. It's a balance. It's not an imbalance. Because when we look at some people, especially people that are not believers, they have one or the other. They fear something, and that's it. They have hope for something, and that's it. Oh, I just hope it happened. Oh, they have fear for it. But the believers, they have this both thing. The scale of equality amongst both of these emotions. That neither one is going to weigh more than the other. It is that balance in which, as believers, we have in ourselves. That mizan, that equal point of everything. Love, hate, hope, fear. Right? There, the balance. The balance in which Allah has placed in us. So we see that when you think about these things and the balance of these hopes and fears, we think about a story in which the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he was talking to a man, and this man was in his pains of death. And he asked him, tell me, what are you thinking? He said, I fear because of the sins in which I have committed. But I hope for Allah's mercy. So he said to him, because you have the balance of both, you will get what you hope for. You will get what you hope for. So if you do not have that balance, you will not get what you hope for. If you just have more fear than hope, then you won't get it. If you have more hope than fear, you won't get it. You have to have hope and fear, and you will get what you hope for. Because you fear because of the sins in which you committed, but you hope for that mercy in which Allah will give you. Because Allah is merciful. He's merciful. So he will give you that mercy if you have this balance. It's mercy in which we are looking for. This is something in which we look for, this mercy. From all of this. When we think about a lot of these things, we always have to tend to think about what happened through these nights of Karbala and Imam Hussein and his family members. And a lot of these lessons make us fear certain things. But it also brings hope towards us as well. When we look at the situation of night we talk about today, the thing which we talk about today is Ali Akbar. When we think of him, he was a very young 18-year-old youth. We know how an 18-year-old youth is. Nowadays, they're considered like an adult. In their prime, ready to go and take on the world. They have much hopes for the future. This is normally what someone that age have, hopes for the future. When we see that Ali Akbar, he was very handsome. They said he resembled the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so much so. That when Imam Hussein alayhi salam wanted to remember his father, his grandfather, he would look at him. He would look at him as a reminder of his father, grandfather, Prophet Muhammad. They said that he had such a loud but beautiful voice, and that he used to call the adhan. And it reminds me of before the battle, before he went and fought, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he told him to call the adhan. So just imagine now with the golden voice in which he had, and he's calling adhan in the plains of Karbala, because the Imam wants these people to realize something, for them to understand something. So as we picture in our mind, just imagine he's saying Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. He trying to make sure these people understand that Allah is the greatest. That is nothing else greater than Allah. He wants these people on that side of the army of Yazid to realize this. Then when he started to go and go, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, that there is no God but Allah. There's no God but Allah. And the point is, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, that this is the grandson of the Rasulullah. This is the one in which you want to fight. This is the one who was under the cloak. This is the one who was considered part of Qisar. This is the one that used to climb on the back of this Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was in sujood. He wanted them through that dawn of Ali Akbar to realize what they're going through or what they're doing or about to do. Or who are they going to attack? This was a reminder for them where he had Ali Akbar call their dawn to these people. But not only that, when he called their dawn, his mothers, aunts, and all, they knew that this might be the last time in which they may hear Ali Akbar's voice, his beautiful voice with his beautiful adhan. This beautiful reminder of their grandfather and father, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This would have been that time in which they would have lost forever, this moment that they're going to lose forever. But he wanted them to realize this, who they are up against, the household of the beloved Prophet. Not no gang or no bandits or nothing. We see that when it came time for Ali Akbar to fight, they said that Imam Hussein granted him permission to fight after he asked. And that Ali Akbar, he went out and fought vigilantly. But the thing that got us the most is that when he mounted on the horse and he started to ride out with the horse, he heard footsteps behind him. And when Ali Akbar, he looked behind him, he saw it was Imam Hussein alayhi salam that was walking behind his son. He asked him, why are you walking behind? He said, you don't understand unless you had a son of your own. We see that Ali Akbar was never able to have a son of his own. So he was never really going to understand the pains in which Imam Hussein was having at that moment as his son was going towards the fight, the battle. He never was able to understand this. We know that it was so difficult for his mother, his aunts, and all of them to allow Ali Akbar to go out there and fight. Because it was so difficult that they was holding him back. They did not want him to leave. They was trying to stop him. They know that this would have been the end, and they would no longer have seen him once he had went out there and fought. But we should know that he had no fear because he understands something. He understands the second part of what is fear and the level of fear of a person. We have knowledge of who Allah is, what Allah is. All he or she wants to do is get closer to Allah. And he or she knows that a sacrifice for Allah is better than any sacrifice that you could ever do. There's no other sacrifice greater than a sacrifice for Allah. This is what happens when you know. This is what Ali Akbar, he did for Islam. At a tender age, he sacrificed everything. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والآسن الإنسان لا في كسل الذين آمنوا وآمنوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر وآخر دعوانا والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله محمد وآله الطاهرين.